Hey everybody, how's it going? Adam here from Schecter again. Today's Tuesday, I believe. Today we got Johnny Christ joining us from Avenged Sevenfold. He should be here in a minute. Also, speaking of Avenged, make sure you check out the new Sinister Gates models that we launched last week. I've been doing a few little launches here and there. We did the Tempest, we did the Ultra 3 bases, or sorry, not the Ultra 3, it's just the regular Ultra bases. Ultra 3 would be the guitar. What else did we do? I feel like there's more. Anyway. Oh yeah, the new PTs are all in, the SLS Elite PTs. So if you're looking for a PT with Fish Influence pickups in them, those are here now too. And same with the Red Rain Apocalypse PT. Those things are awesome. We did a PT version of the Red Rain Apocalypse. Let's see here. You need a Prince model in your life. That would be Paisley Park. You'd have to go through them. Let's see, where's... Searching, hang on. H and N Y. Of course that's not working. Just waiting for Johnny, sorry. Any questions while we wait? We do any more E1s with a Floyd Rose? We do have one special edition one. It's purple. It's got Floyd Rose and Sustainiac, and Jake Pitts also has one. Floyd Rose and Sustainiac. Let's see here. Here's the place to ask a new... Yeah, we'll definitely ask him about the new Avenged Sevenfold album as well. How long would the build time be for a Schecter USA? Depends on what you're having done. How am I doing? Hanging in there. It's Tuesday. Oh, look, there's Johnny. Let's see here. Hey, dude.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm good.
You left me hanging on.
I know. I'm sorry. I had to clean up my studio a little bit. It's filthy in here.
No one wants to listen to me. Trust me. That's not a good...
That's not true, Adam. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. How have you been?
Good, good. How's the fam? Everybody in your camp all good? Everyone's healthy and good?
So far, so good. What about you?
Same. Everything's good. You know, it's a different normal, but we're getting through it, right?
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll be getting back in there soon too. So, seems there's some hope just around the corner for this stuff. But yeah. Wanted to talk to you about a few things. Of course, we have tons of people asking tons of questions right now, especially about new albums and.
Let me see what they're saying. Oh, okay, cool.
But I wanted to talk real quick about your signature bass.
Yeah, man. Let's get into it.
Your signature bass is really, really cool and unique, and I think there's something really, really that's almost looked over that people don't realize about it, is that neck pickup in there.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you explain to everybody what that pickup is and what you're doing and how different this is?
So it's actually a P60. It's actually a guitar pickup, and we put it in there. We were through designing it together with Schecter. I wanted something that had a lot of the warmth that maybe a Stingray or something like that would have, but a lot of the growl, and you can see it in the back right there, a Rickenbacker. That Rickenbacker just has like this mid tone, like it's just nasty sounding, right? And I wanted a little bit of that. We went through so many different pickups, and then it was the P90 that we ended up putting in. We went through a bunch of different ones, and then that pickup, for whatever reason, got that mid-range tone that just sounded raw, nasty, and distorted. And for me, I've never picked up a bass that was able to do both before that. It's either you get this warm-bodied, natural sound, or you have to put it through a pedal to get some dirt on it. And for me, I was like, why can't we just put it all into one bass where I could just make it sometimes I want to be smooth, and sometimes I want to be heavy. Like, and then we put in the balancing knob on it
Yeah.
so that you can go back and forth. Like it's to me, I love the bass, and I'm so glad that I was able to have the platform with you guys to create it, because I do think that it's diverse. It's a very diverse bass, and it can between the balancing knobs and everything like that, you can get almost any tone that you're going for right off of that bass.
I think it's really, really neat too. And that was the thing when I first saw it, I don't think I noticed it. It was a guitar pickup that was in the neck like that. And I looked at the way that it fit in there. I'm like, oh, it actually is. And they're like, no, we put a guitar pickup in it because it does. It gets you a little bit more of that like growl and that bite and that more of that top end on it. And then when you're able to blend it in with that with the soap bar pickup, like you're saying, it's almost got that Music Man vibe to it, but you can add that grit to it. It's something really, really neat. And I don't because it's all black, you kind of look and you're like, oh, it's two pickups, it's no big deal. It's like actually this thing's completely different. And there's not really anything else like that. I wanted to really, really point that out too because it's a really cool bass. It's a really cool concept. And it's definitely something people should be checking out. The only other question I had was the headstock. How'd you come up with the headstock for that?
So I wanted something that looked like I could pop a beer on it. No, I mean it was another cross. It was another. What's that?
I wrote that down. I wanted to know if you've ever tried to open a beer with that headstock.
I think I've been talking to Mark, and I think we got we got something coming out on the next base that we're going to be designing, that I think we're going to be able to be popping beers on it. Um, but yeah, no, the headstock was really just I wanted something that looked kind of metal, but also classic. I wanted something that, as far as look, I mean, first it's sound, right? I wanted to make sure that this bass sounded the way I wanted it to. And then second, it's the look. So you go into it. The headstock itself, I mean, it doesn't help the sound or diminish the sound whatsoever. But I wanted it to look cool. So we came up with a design. I think we went back and forth about 3 or 4 different times before we got it right. But it was it's an idea of a metal looking bass still, and again, there's that little circular part in the middle. You can probably see it in the one back there, but you can you can definitely crack a beer on it. Is kind of the idea behind that.
Oh man, I would love to see that in action one time. Um,
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
I'm I love that you're like, dude, yeah, it's got to sound good. It's got to function good for drinking on stage. So
Yeah, I mean, how else do you get through the set?
that's probably why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Uh, well, speaking of that, dude, your drinks with Johnny, how's that going? Explain that to people that might not know what that is.
Oh, dude, it's going really good. Thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, I started this, back, it was probably a year ago now. I started like a web series basically on the Avenged Sevenfold YouTube channel. And it just kind of started morphing and evolving into something different. Like, I never knew what a podcast was before it. And I was just like kind of going for it. And then my director at the time was like, hey, dude, like you could just pull the audio and put this out as a podcast too. And I was like, oh, there's an idea. So we just like kept running, and everything's like been ever evolving with it. Under quarantine, I've been going live a lot, just because people want to get entertainment right now. Like we're going live right now, and it's just bonus material. Basically, I have all this equipment sitting here. My director isn't coming to my house; he's remotely running it. Thanks to technology, he can remotely run all my camera work, um,
That's
which
cool.
is yeah, it's super cool. And I had all of this equipment sitting around, and like quarantine happened, and it was like probably the second week I looked around, I was like, oh, I should just start going live with this. And then we started, and tonight actually I have WWE superstar R-Truth coming on the show. We the whole thing is it really evolved into something more of a talk show. It was never my intention at the beginning, but you just got to roll with the punches, and like the way that it's coming out, I'm enjoying having conversations with really interesting people and kind of putting them over and allowing them to have a platform that they can speak their truth, that what they want to get across to everybody.
Yeah, and you've had a really diverse like group of people. You had everyone from, people that in your band to like you said, pro wrestlers and other bands. And I watched the other one that you had that one guy that you guys went through like all the different whiskeys and stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff on there. How are you picking your guests to come on this thing?
Well, honestly, it's anybody with an interesting take or something that I'm interested in. It has been kind of the, I guess, the sifting through. Like we've reached out to a lot of people. I have a really rad producer, Sam, who's just been helping me out since the beginning. He was the one who got me Jake the Snake Roberts like at the very beginning. And I mean, that was before. I mean, now he's has a resurgence, but at the time, like, not a lot of people have been talking about Jake in a while. And oh, kudos to him, by the way. He's fucking killing it now. I think he's doing absolutely fantastic and all elite. I mean, I guess it's kind of based on what I'm into. Um, it's a, but it's also like if someone has a good story or some kind of thing that they want to promote, they can come on my show and do it. It's not. I guess what I'm saying is when we reach out to people, I want interesting conversation. That's
Yeah.
the end of it. Like that, and that's the whole idea. It's like interesting conversation with interesting people. The drinks with Johnny part of it, a lot of people go like, "Oh, it's all about drinking." I'm like, it's not all about drinking. That's just a catchy phrase that I threw on the top of it. I like the logo.
So it's definitely not bad to have that in there. Like I said, I thought it was interesting too. You've made a few different drinks and cocktails and things like that. So in between, it's like here's an interview. I learned how to make something. I'm probably gonna make this and then drink it while watching you now.
Yeah. Well, that was the original. So the original idea, I was talking to Brian about this like originally, and we were going to put it on a different platform, but I was going to make a cocktail and then play a bass riff that reminded me of that cocktail. So like a Jamaican thing, and I'd start playing reggae or something like that. Um, Again, it's just ever evolving. I'm not opposed to what the show is going to be. It's just we just have a platform over there now where I can be me and we can talk to people. And so that was the original idea. And then I started making drinks and loving making drinks. I'm not a bartender. I never went to bartending school, but I do have a bar at my house. So why not start learning how to make drinks, right?
Half the battle right there. I mean, I'm sure I can mix a few things and it'll be all right.
Dude,
But
I found like so many of these old timey. Are you a big drinker? Do you drink?
I'm a whiskey guy. Yeah.
Whiskey guy. Okay. So I have this old book that's it's just called Speakeasy, and it goes back to all these drinks that were made in the Prohibition era, and it gives you like a little backstory on each drink. So I've just been opening up that and going through all of them, and yeah, I mean the way that people make old fashions now is not the way that they were originally made.
No.
So
And that's actually really funny because that's usually my go-to with that. And then there's me and my other one of our other artists, Tim, who plays with like Lady Gaga, and he did Suicidal Tendencies, and he did
all right.
a big old-fashioned guy too. And we're super. We kind of have our whiskey spots where we go and we get our old-fashioned, and it's like, man, when you get like the crushed ice with grenadine and whatever, and you're like, oh, this is just so wrong on so many levels.
Yeah. So the whole thing about all those drinks that have been bastardized today, you got to remember why they were made at the time. Like during the speakeasy, like during those prohibition and depression times, it was like basically I only have X amount of dollars to spend, and I got to go home to my family. I'm on my way from work to my family. I need one drink that's just gonna set me off right. And if you go back to those recipes, they are so boozy. They're so boozy. Like every time I didn't even know a lot of liqueurs were higher proof than actual liquor, like liquors. Like
Yeah.
some of them are like 50%, and I'm like, oh, that's how you get like really fucked up. Like,
Or dude, some of them like, and that's the thing too. Like it's a little bit, and they're thick. I didn't realize how
hmm
thick some of those things actually get. Almost like pouring just straight syrup into it, which is actually funny because that's how we got connected with our buddies over at Whistle Pig Whiskey.
Who?
Whistle Pig? Yeah, you've heard of them. We did actually two things. One, they were making drinks and stuff, and they did the syrup that they have that goes with their old fashioned. They did an old fashioned
Hmm.
bacon maple syrup, and like it was absolutely insane. But the other cool thing is they sent us over a few of their whiskey barrels, and we started planing down the staves, and we made pickups out of them. We made pickup bottles.
Cool.
So that's something that we have. We've kind of teased them as some promo stuff here and there, but that's something we're working on actually, like launching it out, where it's gonna be a set of pickups that are made from the whistle pig barrel pickups.
Well, I got to come back down to the shop. I didn't even know about this. I got to come down to the shop and check this shit out.
Oh yeah, dude, it's really really cool. It's really that and
I'm,
like when we go to cut that, like it's that smell of whiskey because it's the actual barrel that's been soaked in there, and that like fresh cut wood smell together is amazing.
uh,
And I actually went back and I was like, man, if there's ever a way that you can make this a candle or something like that, it'd be the best scent ever. And so,
well, next to Gwyneth Paltrow's scent, but
yeah,
it'd be pretty good.
that's what I go to. If you go in my office, you're like, this smells familiar. And you're like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. No, they made a candle out of it. They actually did it and sent it over to us. And it's amazing.
That's rad. So they sent me over like this package. It unfortunately in these times like the delivery system didn't work out. They sent me a few different samples, and I was supposed to be part of this live blending that happened 2 weeks last week actually. And unfortunately, because I wasn't able to participate because I didn't have two of the bottles that I needed to participate. But I was going to be one of their master blenders, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool!" Like, they're rad people over at Whistle Pig. They really are, and they have a great product. The whiskey is great,
Yeah.
and on top of it, they're just still like as big as they're getting. They're super down to earth, and that's always a breath of fresh air to me.
Yeah, no, they're super awesome. They've helped us out a ton. They've helped us out with our NAM party, all sorts of stuff. They're real good people there. But they are also how I found out what cask strength was. That was eye opening. I didn't that was a thing. So they did a big event and we made these cool. We actually burned their logo into some guitars and put those pickups in it. And they had this big tasting event for their Boss Hog, and then they pulled it out and they're like, we had one guy that was in our pickup department was like, oh, he's super into whiskey, and he's like, this is cask strength. It's gonna be crazy. And you could see everybody kind of, go to do a little, toast, and everyone like, whoa,
Whoa, yeah, there's
whoa,
a lot of hooch on
whoa,
that.
a little on the spicy side there, but
There was one that I had. So you mentioned the episode I did the whiskey tasting with Fred Minnick. Um, he sent me something. I had no idea. I started to taste it, and before he could even tell me, it was like I want to say it was like 127 proof or something like that. Like it was like basically 60% alcohol. Which if you're a drinker and you know what 60% alcohol does to you, that's fucked up.
or it's mostly like 40%, like 80 proof. Yeah.
Yeah, that's normal alcohol. This was 60%. I was like, Jesus, what did you send me? I mean, I appreciated it. And then like some people over at 291, it's a whiskey maker out of Colorado, ended up sending me a bunch of bottles, which if you're watching at 291, thank you again. I have them in my bar now. So
And what are those at? What proof are those?
I didn't look through the proofs. Like it just came 2 days ago, and under quarantine, I'm one of those people that like when boxes come and stuff, I let them sit. If they're not something I need at the moment, I let them sit so that like apparently they say that the coronavirus can live after 24 hours on surfaces. So I better safe than sorry. I don't know anything about it. Like I'm not sitting here like telling everyone that's what they should do, but I'm just I side on the I rely on the side of caution, I guess.
Yeah, which is why not at this point? Like it really doesn't hurt anything. So
It's not hurting me. I've got plenty of other whiskey. It's fine. That one could wait a couple of days before I get to it.
wait, what is your go-to drink though?
My go-to drink is probably a martini. So I actually used to, until quarantine, another thing that I absolutely love, like it's a blessing in disguise for me, is going and creating new drinks. I did not realize that the original martini had bitters in it. This was something that I had no idea about, and I was like, that makes perfect sense. So I I used to drink martinis with a green olive, probably a blue cheese olive of some kind. Absolutely loved it. For whatever reason, my body didn't agree with it, and I developed an allergy to green olives. I to this day I can't have green olives.
What?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just I tried it. I've tried it a few different ways, even in a salad, anything like that. It's more of like a intolerance. I won't call it a an allergy. An allergy is probably a little further down the line, but it's an intolerance. It doesn't sit well with my stomach. So I had to start switching up my martinis, and I started with a lemon twist, which is actually the classic way of a dry martini. But then you got to add the orange bitters, which I hadn't done before. And I just started doing that last week, and it changed my life. Like having orange bitters with a good gin, bruised up with a lemon twist. So the original one is supposed to be stirred so you don't bruise the spirit, but I like bruising it. I like that cloudy martini glass. That's what I go for. And if you just add a little bit of orange bitters, the dry vermouth, I mean, I'm talking about like 2 drops. That's all I want. I don't want too much vermouth in my drink.
So, which is funny because we've done something. I want to say we were at Staples for something we were doing with the Kings, the restaurant that was directly across there, little at LA Live, and they have like a signature martini, and I think it's a King. Something Kings named after whatever, but that's how they did it with the bitters and stuff. And that was the first time I ever had it. And I was like, what? That's really weird, but it was delicious.
It's
Absolutely.
so good.
I wish I remember what the restaurant was, but it's right over there. It's really good.
I
Um,
can't wait to get back to LA Live, by the way. Just as a sports fan, I've seen Mark over there. We've ran into each other at a couple of Kings game down in, it's I'm really sorry for everyone that is out of a job right now, basically. I mean,
yeah.
you don't think everyone thinks about the sports stars and everything like that. It's not about them. Like they're going to be just fine. We're talking about the people who are just working at Staples Center and LA Live that they're just sitting at home right now, man. They got nothing to do, and it just sucks.
So there was a point we started working with the Lakers band too that plays up there, and I made them a cool Lakers bass. I'm just that's my team, that's my favorite everything. And we were there one night, and then at Staples, and then the next night was the Kings game, and it was just like then I think the night after was Clippers, and I'm like, man, that that arena is just booked constantly. There's just stuff going on there constantly, and the amount of people that are there working, doing everything back to back to back to back to back is just insane. So,
Yeah,
but that does to everything else around there too, because all that is people waiting to go to the venue or go see the show or whatever the event, and it just affects everything around it too.
yeah. I mean, just think about the parking, the parking people. Like just and on that small scale, like they depend upon what money they get by uh, driving traffic to where it needs to go, and like there's no traffic, there's no job. So it's really unfortunate. Actually, I'm teaming up with Chris Santos starting next week, and we're doing a charity drive for like 4 episodes. I think we're gonna do. We haven't ironed out everything yet, but we're gonna do a charity drive for people in the service industry that are out of a job right now. I'm actually I'm gonna auction off one of my Schecter basses. I'm gonna sign it off and send it out. We're gonna do like a online auction of some kind. Um, Probably do something at the Tao. It's the Tao organization, his restaurant, right? And me and him are when this all settles, one of the auction things off is going to be a dinner with me and him at one of his restaurants, and someone's going to be able to bid on that.
That's cool. That's a great idea too. When are you gonna be launching that? Do you know yet?
Tuesday, we're going to be doing a little bit of a teaser towards it, and then the following Tuesdays and Thursdays that we're going to be doing. So it's Thursday, I've been going live Tuesdays and Thursdays basically. So we're tying it into that, and what we're going to do is have different friends of ours, his friends, my friends, in the industry, like in the music industry, they're going to come on and hopefully they can donate something that is specific to them. And we'll just have a chat with current affairs of what they're doing. He's got a few people that he's going to reach out to. I don't want to say any names yet because we don't have anyone confirmed yet. But I mean, I'm very confident in who we're going to have, and it's going to be some really cool people. So if anyone checks it out, like and wants to donate, I get that times are hard right now too. It's not like we're reaching out for a donation that's going to go to our pockets, right? This is something that's helping other people out. Um, and I know times are tough. If you have the means, that those are the people that we're looking for to donate. If you have the means, cool. And then I think we're gonna have a couple of sponsors that are going to give some ticket out, some bags and stuff that'll be at a base price rather than donating to the auction part of it.
That's awesome. Well, if you need anything from us, let us know. We'll gladly help
Uh,
out.
Absolutely appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, it's rough for everybody, and the sooner we get through this, the sooner we get back to doing things, and I don't have to work from home anymore. It'll be great.
How's it been? How's it been for you? Like, I mean, you
Well,
you guys aren't going to the warehouse, right? Or do you have a skeleton crew over there right now?
not yet. We're supposed to. They're reviewing everything right now. So everything, like we were originally supposed to, I think, go back. They were hoping April 19th. They were like, we're gonna see what it does. Like, everybody was off, and then they're like, well, no, they extended it. So they keep extending it and keep extending it. I think we said something about when I was talking with Mark last. I think he said it was like the 22nd. So we're waiting. It's just a waiting game, and it's like better.
Yeah.
It's not like we're a huge crew over there. Like, I mean, we definitely have less than 50 employees there. So, but still, like, we don't want to be like, hey, the second you can go back, like everybody just cram in there and get to it.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing is, you know, for all intents and purposes here in California, it's May 15th is when they're supposed to loosen the reins a little bit. We don't know yet what they're going to say, and that's coming up on Friday, right? So, um, and then even then, like I have a 3-year-old son, and they're reopening preschool for people who have normal jobs and everything like that. And they sent an email to us and was like, do you think you want to put him back in school? And I was like, yes, I do, but I'm not going to be the first wave of that. Like I just again I know it's just I don't need to rush back to to the normal things of life, and I err on the side of caution, as I said. So I think after everything gets reopened, I'm still going to be a couple weeks out before I go back to normal. I want to see how things go because there's been reports of places like as in China where this all originated, where they released the reins and then they had to go right back to it. And I'd rather just slowly get back to it.
Yeah, I would. The sooner we can get done with this and be done with it, the better. As opposed to like, okay, cool. It's like, oh, whoops, start over, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah, it's just important. What have you been doing? So, what have you been doing to like pass the time other than obviously you started going live with Schecter and everything?
So we started going live on this, and it was I think it was Andrew from the band Afterlife. He was like, hey dude, there's some other guys doing live streams. Would you be down to do a live stream? I was like, well, let me see if I can book it up. And guess what? Every artist is at home right now, so it's been
We got nothing better to do but to talk to each other.
yes. It's one of those things I'm like, oh, I don't know if we can do it, and then literally everybody's like, yep, 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 yep. I'm like, all right, so this isn't as bad as I thought it would be. It's like cool. Obviously work at Schecter. I don't host things, but you got to do it some way. I don't know. So I was like, all right, cool, do it, and we hop on here and just at least ask some questions. I mean, it entertains everybody else. It entertains me. Gives me something to do for an hour of like.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who's watching right now. It gives us a reason to like you wearing a hat right now, but give me a reason to actually kind of do my hair for a second, maybe shave up a little bit. Give me a reason to look good.
That's why. That's because otherwise I'd be suit and tie right now. You know what I mean? Just being suit.
Yeah.
No, not at all. But well, that was another thing I was going to ask you too. So with your show, like you said, you're hosting this now. How's that been? How's that been trying to be like a host and do this?
Again, it's been a transition. It's been an evolution. I think I'm still learning. I've always respected and looked up to some of the great talk show hosts in the world: Conan O'Brien, Howard Stern, Jimmy Fallon. Now, I was not originally a big Jimmy Fallon fan, and it took me a minute to understand what he was doing. And I was like, oh, he's changing the game. He's doing some good shit. So I've always been a fan of that, and I didn't know if I could do anything like that, and I'm still learning. But it's really just come down to the fact that you have a normal conversation with people. I was always on the other side of interviews, and you have a lot of not no disrespect, but there's a lot of journalists that their job is to try and get something out of you.
Yeah.
And I never really understood that in some respects. I was like, why can't we just like have a normal conversation and maybe something naturally will come up? Um, and that's how I approached my show. I'm just like, I want to have a platform where you get to put yourself over on my show, and that's it. If there's something you don't want to talk about, whatever. I'm not going to try and pry on it. What we're going to do is we're going to have a conversation like you and I are
Yeah.
having right now, and eventually we'll get something will come up that we get to get into real shit with. It's a conversation of like, and the other part of it to me is there's a lot of people out there in the world that I might not rub elbows with, but I respect, and I want to know about their lives. I truly do, and this is a way for me to reach out to them and get to know them a little bit better and understand where they came from and where they're going. And to me, that's like, I mean, I'm an extrovert. I'm at a party. I want to walk up to somebody that I've never met and just say, "Hey, what's going on? Like, tell me." And so it was kind of a natural selection, I guess, about that. Like, I don't want to see again. I don't want to say like I'm like a TV host of the likes of these other greats who probably went through journalism and through college to do all these things. I don't want to slight what they're doing at all. Um, but I feel that I've had enough of these conversations without pressing record that I now would feel confident just being like, okay, let's just press record. People want to hear this. Like, we don't need to get into hard hitting facts all the time, but if that comes up, great. If not, people are still going to enjoy listening to our conversation and shooting the shit, basically.
Yeah, and I do think that it's also the whole concept, the whole drinks with Johnny, sitting down having a drink kind of thing. That's usually where conversations come from anyway. Like that,
Absolutely. Tale
like
as old as time, right? Like you said, and a lot of times, like a lot of people don't get this, but I'd say 50% of the guests that I've had are either recovered alcoholics or don't drink. It has nothing to do with that. We'll have a cup of coffee and talk about coffee. It's a very broad term, you know.
but putting him in that mindset outside of like, okay, I'm going in to do an interview and I have to entertain or come up with ideas for 30, 40 minutes, whatever it may be. Like, okay, if I'm just sitting down and having a drink with Johnny, then it's just sitting down and having a drink with Johnny and things flow so much easier.
Absolutely, and that's the idea. And when I do press record, this isn't the case with live. Live, it's live, so we're just going for it. But when I do my pre-recorded stuff that comes out on Monday mornings, uh, that whole thing, I've told every single person, I've sent everybody the audio before and get approval before. Again, I'm not a gotcha journalism kind of guy or anything like that. Like, if feel free to talk to me and know in the back of your head that I'm going to send it to you. And if there's anything you want to change about it, it's easy to change. I happen to have a studio in my house. I'm running Pro Tools. I run all my podcasts with Pro Tools. I don't know if anyone else really does that, but I run all my podcasts in Pro Tools where I'm adding music and cutting up and making it, putting the best light on my guests as I can.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why people want to watch it too, because it's not that kind of thing. It's a casual thing, and it almost feels like you're in the room listening to a cool conversation. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah,
that's very appealing about it. But
yeah, and I'm not going to say that like I'm the first person to think of this or anything like that. There's a lot of other great podcasts out there that are doing very similar things. I think that the difference that I could bring is especially when I'm talking to a musician or someone who's had a successful career, I can relate to them at a certain level that I feel like gets gets them a little bit more comfortable.
who's a guest that you really, really, really want to get on the show? If you're like, man, I can pick one person now. I would love to have them on the show.
I mean, I could shoot for the stars and be like, oh yeah, I'd like to have a president one day. But no, I mean, like, in all honesty, like, for me as a fan, um, I would say Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien, has been, he's like the role model, for hosting for me. I loved him at the Late Show. I think he got a raw deal, before he went to the Tonight Show. I think that that was already set in stone. He never really got his shot at being the Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon's doing a great job. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love Jimmy Fallon as well. But Conan O'Brien, his podcast that he has out too is fucking hilarious and awesome. He has always been a guy that like I watch what he does with hosting, and I'm just like, he gets it. He just straight up gets it.
You know, it's funny because I used to watch him, and it wasn't. Yes, he was a great host and he was funny, but the thing that I loved is when he was doing his show originally, like the musical guests that he would have on there. He was a big part of that, and he was really into finding these different acts and stuff and bringing them on there. And it was I used to watch it to see who he would bring on, and then like discover new bands that way, which I thought was amazing. I don't know too many other talk show hosts that were doing that at the time too.
No, yeah, I mean, now Jimmy's doing it, but I mean, Conan was doing it before Jimmy was, and like, you're absolutely right. And he plays guitar. He's a musician. He loves music, so it comes out, and that's that. I guess that's probably where I have a kinship to him as well. And then going back, like just his history, man, writing for SNL and writing for The Simpsons in those eras where they were just fucking on fire. Like it's just such a cool story.
Yeah, and I mean we got lucky too that we started doing some stuff with Derek Smalls there, and we went to one of the rehearsals that he was doing, and to listen to him run through, I mean, like half the cast of The Simpsons, and just how well everything was done on that show too, from the
Yeah,
references, it's fantastic.
yeah.
All right, the people are gonna kill me if I don't get to these music questions that they
Let's go for it.
they keep bringing it up, and I'm just like, hang on. But Drinks with Johnny, make sure you check it out. Um,
Yeah, go check it out, everybody. If you haven't already.
yeah,
If you're watching this, you probably already know me and you're probably already checking it out. But if you're not,
get on it. That's what we've been talking about for the past 30 minutes. Like,
has it been? Oh, nice. See, this is what's nice about having this show. I've understood how much time passes when you're having a good conversation. I'll be sitting with somebody. I was with Tony Khan. He's the owner of the Jaguars and All Elite Wrestling. I'm sorry, he's the co-owner. His dad is the owner of the Jaguars, but he's the heir to the throne. Um, Huge successful guy. No business talking to me for this long, but we sat and chatted for over 2 hours, and it was and before we knew it, we were just like we are having White Claws, having a conversation like you and I are having right now. Before we knew it, it was like over 2 hours, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a great episode. I'm gonna have to two-part this out.
which is great. I mean, like you said, that's kind of what you want from this thing. You want this kind of the thing that I started thinking about after we did this was like, we're doing this and we're usually doing it between 30 minutes and an hour ish. But I'm like, man, when you watch TV shows and things like that too, you got to think that's usually 30 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on what it is. And that's all cut together and there's breaks in between and things like that. To go live continuous for that long, like even talk shows, they're
It'd
not
be
segmented little. So the whole live aspect of this is completely different.
absolutely, yeah, and even the talk shows that you just alluded to, like they have formats, they have producers, they have directors that they go over not just notes, timed notes.
Yeah.
Like if a time comes up, they have to follow that, and I'm actually trying to understand that a little bit better and get to that side of it so that I can. I get that some of the people might think that it's meandering a little bit and stuff like that. That's fine. I totally get that. So I am trying to concise it a little bit for the viewer, especially because there's so much out there right now, right? But at the same time, this isn't my main gig. I'm just having fun with it.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it's your show. Like if you're gonna do this, you're doing what you're doing because it's your show and that's how you're gonna do it. Like
Yeah.
others too. Doing all right without it. But number one
So
question everybody and their mother is asking right now, and I don't want to get in trouble. New Avenged music.
no, I know. As you know, doing my show too, and I see all the comments. By the way, everybody who's watching who also watches Drinks with Johnny, I see all of your comments. By the way, I'm not someone who's just like throwing my phone away. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate how much the Avenged Sevenfold fans want new music. I do. I absolutely love that because it shows how great of fans you guys are. That's really all you care, not all you care about, but it's one of the main things you care about right now. And I totally appreciate that. I cannot give any new information out that I haven't already said before. We're working. It takes time. We've always taken time on our records, and I know it seems like it's been longer for a lot of people, and I get it. And everyone's speculating on why this is taking longer. It doesn't matter. It just really doesn't matter. The reality is there's a pandemic that happened in the middle of our writing cycle, and it we can't do we can only do with it what we can.
Yeah.
We've been writing for a long time now. We're excited to have something to show you guys, hopefully sooner than later. But I mean, I can't get there's no dates or anything like. I would be super irresponsible if I was to give any kind of projection at this point. Um,
Well,
and that's not to like come on your show and like step around the question, right? I'm just being honest. Like it's just there's no it would be super irresponsible to come up. We're in the middle of a writing process. I
I,
can't I can't predict what next week is going to look like for that writing process.
Well, I was gonna say too, and this has been something that I've been talking to a lot of people about too. Is a lot of people are expecting that with this break, it's like, oh, you got to go. Everybody's gonna be writing and doing all this other stuff. And I was talking with Keith Marrow, and he was telling, he's like, man, he's like, I feel like I'm forcing myself to sit down and write because there's nothing else going on. He's like, but it doesn't feel organic, and I don't feel inspired because it's like, oh, I better go and do this. But the other thing we were bringing up too is like, how is your guys' writing process normally? Like, are you guys usually recording things independently and sending it back and forth, or are you guys together as a group? Because if you're together as a group, then you're completely changing the dynamic of how you usually do it. And like,
No, that's a great point. For us, I mean, it's album to album, to be honest. Like, we usually like to take our inspirations from where we're at in the world. Like, we come off of a cycle of 2 years of touring, and then we come back. We take probably a couple months to get together with friends and family, and then we really hunker down and start writing. And we use all of that previous 2 years to inspire us into a record. And yeah, it's usually, us getting together at one of our houses and doing a home studio. A lot of things, a lot of times there's other artists, and every artist I've learned too, even doing my own show and talking to people, they have their own process, and there's no wrong way to create. But for Avenged, we hunker down and we get everything meticulously written and done to the point that we have a perfectly good sounding demo, and all we're going to do is go re-record it in the studio at that point.
and I'm assuming that this kind of throws that whole dynamic off. Because a lot about writing and stuff like that is feel and bouncing ideas back and forth without having to really put everything down like that and be like, hey, cool, I'm glad you recorded this all the way through. Can you re-record it though?
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing, I mean, studios are reopening in California, right? So like that's a good sign, but it's like you just you can't go in there. There's just so much that you can't dive into yet because there's so many unknowns. Like, and I mean, you put out a record, which I had Jeff on the Jeff of the Used on the podcast this week. They just put out their record Heartwork, which is incredible. It's a fucking rad record, and Jeffa is probably top three contemporary bassist in my opinion right now. And his work on it was incredible. They put it out because they recorded it a while ago. They always had this date in mind, and they weren't going to postpone it. They're like, well, we already did it, and this is what we're going to do. But all their touring got postponed. A lot of things that I don't know that people don't know this, but they're not considering the fact that concerts are going to be the last thing that goes back to normal. It's going to be because it's not essential. I mean, it's in my world it's essential, but in the grand scheme of the world, it's not an essential thing.
Well,
So
going back to what you talked about that, like trickle in, like cool. Even if there was a concert next Friday, like how many people are going to be like,
who's going?
hang out together right now? Like
it,
it
it's not going to happen until they have a vaccine. I know that there's a lot of people who are optimistic and being like, oh, we can have an arena with half capacity, and we can check temperatures at the door and all these kind of things. I'm like, that's not good. I don't see it. That doesn't work to me. That in my head, I'm like, that doesn't work. You need a vaccine, and for people to be able to be healthy and safe. You can't just throw it back together because we need to get some extra cash flow. That doesn't work for me. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that and like again, even at that, it's like that's still pretty risky, you know. Um, just anyway, it is what it
I forget what the original question is now. I just went
is.
into the weeds on
Plus,
something.
stuff.
See, this is what happens. Like now I'm a big time talker because I have my podcast. I just fucking go off for a fucking tangent every once in a while.
Yeah, but it's all right though. My get going, or you start trying to like read the comments too while you're doing it. Like, wait, what?
Oh, yeah, that's so hard to do. I'm gonna help you out here because I do that on my show too. And I do that, and I'm like,
I'm like, oh,
it's so hard to keep up with them.
uh, um,
X-Ray 7X, yo, I'll give you right back a yo.
when did you start playing Schecter?
That would have been right after Nightmare. Right after we did the Nightmare record. I started playing Schecter. I had played Schecters a couple of times on some different tracks. I think like there's a B-side. Shit, I can't remember the name of it right now, so I'm not even gonna go there. Uh, but I've used Schecter basses on several different records, just randomly. You know, the other thing is different tracks require different sounds,
Mhm.
just to get the personality across. And a lot of people who aren't musicians will look at it and be like, "Oh, you're only using that one bass throughout all your career. That's the end all," and that's just not the case. Like there's different needs for different tones, and you have to get through it. That's part of the reason why I created my own with you guys is
Yeah.
because I wanted that spectrum to be kind of. I mean, there's still stuff that I'm sure you're gonna find somewhere else, but in this spectrum, I've covered a lot of bases. No pun intended. Um,
You did. The hosting and dad jokes are go hand
have to.
in hand.
But yeah, so I mean, I started so long going back to your original question. I'm sorry. That was I started playing right after Nightmare. I had used a couple of Schecters on that particular album, and I just wanted to hone in a new idea. And obviously, Brian and Zach had already been on Schecter, and it was one of the first companies I called. And we already had a relationship with Mark over there, so it was a no-brainer at that point that like you guys were so gracious and able to help me out create what I was going for, like the vision. Everyone in the team that technically it wasn't me who came up with the P90 guitar pickup. I just knew what I wanted it to sound like, and one of the technicians was like, "Well, we tried all the bass pickups. Let's try a guitar pickup." And I was like, "All right, I'm game." And we just threw it in there, and I was like, "Yep, that's exactly what I was looking for."
Which is awesome. Again, for anybody that's just tuning into this thing, your bass is pretty amazing. It's got a guitar pickup, it's got a an EMG in the bridge on it. You can blend between the two, and it's a really unique sound that you can get for bass. It's really different, and it's awesome not to just only design something that looks cool, but to have something that's unique and sounds cool. And that thing's pretty awesome. So make sure you guys check that out for sure. Um,
Actually, the one I have behind me, I just broke this string on yesterday. See, that's the problem with quarantine. I have to change my own strings now, man. It's weird.
Good thing there's only four, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, I gotta fix that so I can keep writing.
Well,
I mean, I got a few others I could play too, but I don't know if you could see, but it's like my wall of basses
you gotta.
and then I have like of course I have like way more than that in the attic and storage too. So
Yeah. Well, you can never have too many. How many do you think you have?
that's a loaded question. I couldn't even start to count that to be honest, man. I mean, on hand, I've got double digits, definitely double digits. Not quite 20, but double digits, somewhere in the teens on hand. And then I mean, obviously in the Avenged warehouse, we have a slew of other ones. I think that's actually where I'm going to pull a signature out of the warehouse, something that I played on stage before, and I'm going to sign one of those for that Tao organization that we're going to be doing.
Dude, check that out. Remember that's a stage played autograph. That's pretty cool. When did you start playing bass?
I saw that question. That's a great one. I started playing bass when I was 12 years old. It's so funny. I was in fifth grade, and I had an acoustic guitar that was my father's, a regular guitar, and that's what I first started playing. And then a couple of my buddies were going to put together a band just for fun, and we were like, yeah, yeah, and we're all picking our instruments, right? We didn't have them yet. We're just like, okay, well, you're going to play keyboards, and you're going to play drums, and you're going to sing. And I got left with bass. And I was like, cool, man. But to be honest, I couldn't have been happier. It would have been my first choice. Anyway, at the time, I had just discovered Les Claypool and Primus. And Wynona's Big Brown Beaver had come up on MTV, and I was enthralled from that. And then I dove deep into Les Claypool after that. And that was kind of the first things I attempted to transcribe. I mean, you don't just pick up the bass and start playing like Les Claypool, but you attempt it, right?
He's been practicing for a little bit, so
he's got him and his brother have a winery too. I gotta go check out. I gotta hit them up. They got a winery out in I believe it's Napa, maybe Sonoma, but they got a winery. I gotta go check out. I've never had the pleasure of meeting my ultimate hero in Les, and I can't wait for that. I know that's going to happen sometime. I can't wait for it. I'm excited because now, again, that's another reason why I create the show, so I can meet my heroes. I'm going to reach out to them and have them on the show. I have to.
And if he has a winery, dude, bring some wine. Like, yeah, be a perfect show. Be a perfect show. It goes full.
He has no idea what kind of influence he's put on me. Like, straight up, when I was Big Brown Beaver was the start of it, and then Jerry was a race car driver. Tommy the Cat, his bass solo and Tommy the Cat is just, I still can't do that. I have no idea what the fuck he's doing there. That's the beauty of it. People like him and Matt Freeman with the Maxwell Mirror bass solo.
Yep.
People like that, like, even if you transcribe it, you can't do what they did. It's never going to sound like what they did because that's their soul in the bass. You know what I mean? Like you could play the same notes. Sure, there's only 12 notes to play. You can play the same notes, but you ain't going to play them like that.
Well, not only that, but you didn't have the mindset of that. Yeah, you can copy a lot of people's stuff, like it's to have that mentality of writing. I remember when first time I heard that bass, the Maxwell Murders bass solo on that thing. That was I think one of the first albums I ever learned on bass, like cover to cover, because that whole album, you're like, oh my god, that's amazing. And the next song, was amazing on bass, and you're just like, dude, this is so cool, and it makes you excited to actually play. For sure, but at no point would I ever be at his level of thinking like that, you know?
No, totally. That's again, it sounds artsy fartsy, but it's just the truth. Like that's his soul. Like when you hear someone's like bass playing that, and that's what separates them. It's because that's their soul. Like that's what, for whatever reason, that's their creativity. That's what they were feeling. That's what they were able to create because that's. At that moment, that was them putting everything they could into this one moment for us all to enjoy, and it's fantastic because it's a personality. It creates it's a personality trait at that point.
Is there a bass player that had an influence on you that you feel is like underrated?
Well, I did mention Jeffa. I think he's absolutely had it. I met Jeffa back in 2003 on Warped Tour together, and from that point on, I was enthralled with his playing. He just has such a cool vibe to his bass playing, and it's very underrated. I mean, they get categorized as like an emo band and everything like that, but then when you actually sit back and listen to the music, it has so much other influential stuff to it. I mean, he's got such a rad R&B and funk background that he brings to the table that's just super cool. That's just off the top of my head. I'd have to think a little bit more to get a couple. There's a lot of underrated bass players out there, but like, it's just, it's kind of it kind of comes with the territory of being an underrated bass player. If you're a bass player in the rock world, it kind of comes with the territory that you're underrated.
You're not a good bass player unless you're underrated. So
yeah.
unfortunately. Here's one other question that can. What do you remember the name of your first band?
Yeah. There was two. Okay. So the very first band was just bass and drums. And it was me and my buddy Ryan Alonzo. And he's now a photographer.
Oh.
We called ourselves the Feudalitarians.
So what?
Because Feudalitarians.
Okay.
Feudalitarians. It was something we found in a dictionary and thought it sounded funny. And then when we actually got a guitar player and kind of created once we thought we had a band that was just playing in our garage in front of nobody, we called ourselves Absent Minded.
All right. That's that. Most go straight for street signs, and then they're like, "Yeah, that's what we're in. We're Boulevard Drive." And we're like, "Yep."
Dude, band names are so funny how they come up, man. Everybody's got a great story about like band names. Like, I mean, Avenged Sevenfold itself was. I wasn't in the room. I hadn't joined the band yet, but in 1999, it was Matt and Zach coming up with shit, and it came from a Bible. And we're not a religious group of people. So it's just like, how did that fucking work?
All right, dude. Well, we're coming up on almost an hour with this. I just want to
okay.
Taking your time out of your day and writing and your show and everything else like that. Make sure you check out Johnny's Bass. Check out Drinks with Johnny. That's what, YouTube, podcast, everything, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere. Everywhere you use social media is easy. You just follow Drinks with Johnny. That's super easy to follow. And then we have our own YouTube channel now. I say we. Every time I say we, like, people don't understand, like, oh, he's just doing it himself. No, I have a team that I'm paying, and hopefully I can start paying a little bit more at some point. But like, yeah, there's a whole team, and we have Drinks with Johnny YouTube channel that we're really trying to pump up right now. And as I mentioned earlier, tonight I'm going to be going live with R-Truth from WWE. I go live Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays live at 5, and Thursdays is Thursday happy hour, 4 p.m. This is all Pacific time, obviously. So make sure you check that out. And yeah, thanks for everyone who already is checking it out. I really appreciate that. And tell a friend. That's all I can say.
Anyway, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate you doing this. Yeah, we'll be.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. It's good to see you again.
You too. Later, man.
Later.